Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Modern Business Continuity and Disaster Recovery with Metallic Data Management as a Service with Azure. Today's event is presented in partnership with Metallic and special thanks to our friends at Microsoft. This is going to be a great event lined up for you today. We've got an excellent discussion here coming up. Before you get started, there's just a few things that you should know about today's webinar. We'll kick it off here just by talking about the format of the event. My name is David Davis of Actual Tech Media, and I'll be serving as the host. As always with our events here at Actual Tech Media, we want these events to be educational. We encourage your questions. They're in the questions pane of the audience console. Many of you have already found that and have said hello or good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are across the United States and around the world. But we do want your technical questions as the event goes on here. Experts from Metallic and Microsoft are standing by, and so we do want those questions, and we encourage your questions. We also have a number of handouts I want to call your attention to there in the Handouts tab, starting off with the Metallic Why Wait ebook. This is a ebook that you can download right there in your audience console. It's 11-page, a very well done ebook, lots of statistics, so make sure that you check that out. Second is the Metallic Data Management as a Service data sheet with additional details on the solution. And then maybe most importantly right there is the Metallic free trial link. You can sign up for a free trial simply by putting in your email address, and you can get started with Metallic. Try it out for yourself. It's a fully functional, full service free trial. So make sure that you check out that special link. And then at the end of the webinar today, we'll be announcing the winner of our Amazon $300 gift card door prize. If you're watching this on demand, of course, that drawing has already occurred. The prize terms and conditions can be found there in the Handouts tab as well. And with that, it's now my pleasure to introduce you to today's two expert presenters. Welcome to David Ngo, Chief Technology Officer for Metallic, a Commvault venture, and David Totten, Chief Technology Officer at Microsoft. David, it's great to have you on. I'll now hand it off to you. Take it away.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our discussion today, where we'll be talking about business continuity and disaster recovery, or BCDR, as it's more commonly known as, with Metallic Data Management as a Service plus Azure. And today, I'm very lucky to be joined by, we all are actually, with David Totten. David, would you mind introducing yourself, please?
Yeah, you bet. I'm the Chief Technology Officer here for our U.S. Partners business. Actually, I'm doing two jobs now. I'm also the Vice President of our ISV business here in the United States. And obviously Commvault and Microsoft have had a long-standing relationship, and I just love the innovation that's coming out of the Metallic Group, specifically with this product as a service. And so I'm excited to talk about it. I'm excited to talk about how it matches and goes directly in line with our solution sales plays, backup, continuity, and disaster recovery, which is for some reason a brand new play from a go-to-market perspective, but it's been one of the biggest industry innovations we've seen in 30 years. So I'm excited to see how you guys help fit in and slipstream that sales plan for us.
Great, thank you so much. And I'm David Ngo. I am CTO of Metallic at Commvault. I've been with Commvault for 24 years and have been fortunate to spend just about all of that time working with Microsoft and with David on a variety of solutions and how we can help protect and safeguard our customers' data together. And so this is really a very pertinent topic today, I think. What is modern BCDR? What does that mean? I think with the adoption of SaaS technologies like Dynamics 365 and Microsoft 365, and using Azure cloud resources, PaaS and IaaS resources, that the nature of threats have really changed, right? The data center has been modernized. People have accelerated their move to the cloud and adopting new technology. And now they don't have to worry about things like data center disaster or hardware failing or things of that nature. But at the same time, new threats have kind of emerged, right? The threat vectors have changed. Cybersecurity is probably the #1 thing on everyone's minds. Ransomware and malware, and of course the thing that people don't really like to talk about because it's so hard to defend against is malicious insider. And that goes beyond just kind of a disgruntled employee to supply chain attacks, which are really scary and insidious. But really, that's the number one thing that I find when talking to customers and others in the industry. That's really top of mind. That's driving a lot of initiatives today, right? And the cybersecurity threat is only broadened by the fact that engaging these different services kind of creates some data silos, because you have some data in a SaaS service, you might have data on premises. Most companies I talk to are looking at a hybrid deployment, at least for the near future, in terms of having some resources on premises, some in the cloud. And this is creating some management complexity, right? From a data protection standpoint, from a broadening of the attack surface that's available. These are all real challenges today. And this is really compounded by the challenge of finding and training and keeping great resources, right? Your people are your greatest asset. And having those people available, there's always a pressure to do more with less. And that's just kind of a constant of doing business. But especially in today's environment, what we see is that customers are really under a ton of pressure to develop expertise in all of these areas, while still trying to maintain their day-to-day operations. And so this is where new solutions can really come into play. David, what have you seen in this area?
Yeah, I mean, I love that you highlighted right away supply chain ransomware attacks. We've seen more of those in the past 2 years than we've seen in the history of IT. And the reason why is because obviously the number one trusted asset for any organization is the customers and the relationships they have. They're not allowed just to go down or lose customer data. That's irrecoverable. You can have sometimes a poor customer experience, or maybe the product doesn't work as it should every time. But if you lose a customer's trust, you're dead to them forever. And so this concept of how much people are interacting with data and endpoints and different applications creates this amazing vector of applications that all work together and intertwine this huge web, but it also enables a lot more threat vectors to come from the bad actors out there. And what you're seeing is people getting attacked not only at their home IT, but like you mentioned, their entire distribution supply chain. That's from the order intake process all the way through to fulfillment. And if one of those specific entry points gets attacked, or an organization's lifeblood to reach their customers with trust and significance dramatically falls off, right? And so these volume of cyber threats are going to increase as long as data and access to customer information continues to expand, which we know is the case right now.
Yeah, thank you very much. And yeah, I appreciate your perspective there. This is, I think, where we really together saw a great opportunity to help our customers, right, by taking the best of Microsoft technology and its cloud platforms, in particular here, Azure, and combining that with Commvault's best of class technology that we've developed together really over the past 20 plus years. That's proven to be performant and secure and scalable in the enterprise. Combining those technologies and really tapping into the scale and performance of Azure to deliver modern BCDR, right? And that's really the key. There are a few things that we talk about that really are characteristics of modern BCDR, and they speak to the things that you just mentioned, David, with some of the modern threats and the modern attack vectors, and provides our customers, our joint customers, with the peace of mind to continue that they can be resilient against these kinds of threats, right? I think together, the first thing is unmatched data security and protection. This is not just from the Azure perspective, also from what Metallic can provide from an air-gapped, immutable backup service, right? Protecting data to Azure and leveraging really, core Azure assets like Azure Blob that's really highly performant, very secure. On top of that, we layer things like our secure architectures and functionality like our AI and ML anomaly and threat detection, as well as Metallic ThreatWise, which we'll talk about a little bit later, for cyber deception and early warning, and things like our multi-layered security model that's built on zero trust, and really I think the best validation of our approach to security is that we're the only FedRAMP High ready data management as a service solution with those 421 controls. I'm very familiar with that exact number. Again, built on Azure Government Cloud, right? I mean, a fantastic combination of our technologies. Yeah. And then being able to, and addressing kind of the that resource gap by being able to manage assets wherever your data lives, on premises, in the cloud, in a SaaS service, from a single platform. Metallic doesn't just protect one or two services. We really have a very broad capability of support for on-prem workloads, enterprise scale workloads, as well as things in the cloud, like say Azure Blob Storage, right? Azure VMs, and some cool stuff that's coming up soon as well. And then delivering this capability in a way that companies want to consume technology today, which is SaaS, right? Not only do we deliver it in a SaaS way, but we also help with data mobility. We enable customers to leverage Azure solutions and cloud solutions because they can enjoy the same degree of data protection and compliance, not only with their on-premises assets, which they need, but also leverage cloud technologies when they're ready to, because we provide that support. We give them that insurance policy so they can adopt as quickly as they want to adopt, which has been remarkable to see, honestly. David, how would you approach or think about with customers how Azure helps deliver this durability and security? As an example with Metallic that helps with modern BCDR.
Yeah, I mean, well, first off, obviously the past several, couple decades, we've seen this move to public cloud in a much different space, enabling organizations to have access to innovation, technology, scale, quicker time to market for application development, and access to databases. Like we've just seen this unprecedented growth, right, in the use of technology to solve bigger problems. And the reason why is because of the scale of these sort of public cloud companies. Now, I happen to work for one. Microsoft's been around for 50 years. We have a bedrock of trustworthy computing. We've always fought and won the trust of enterprises and small businesses alike based on this foundation of trust and trustworthy computing that we've always had. So obviously, when we launched into the arena of public cloud, we didn't just stop, right, thinking about security and scalability and durability of a network. We've got over 200 physical data centers. We've got the biggest, baddest, most secure and scalable public cloud environment on the planet. We invest $10 billion of R&D every single year on innovation and access points and making sure we continue to drive scale and security through those endpoints. And I understand that not 100% of the workloads are in the cloud yet. We've just begun this journey, in my perspective, on where we're moving different applications and data. But what the cloud is really specifically driving is, again, time to market and access to new information. David, you highlighted this, and one of my favorite parts about Metallic, and that specifically data management as a service, is the concept of being able just to go out and install something virtually, have it up and running with pre-configured guidance, and then all of those controls that you can configure on your own if you're a control freak like I am. That's phenomenal, right? Before you used to have to order it, then they ship it to you, and then you got to install it, and then you got to figure out, how do I take it out of the box? I have worked for so many companies over the years that have spent, billions of dollars in customizing, packaged box software. The benefit of software as a service is it's always innovating, it's always updated, it's always addressing the latest, trends within the marketplace or the latest innovation that a public cloud provider like Microsoft can provide, and it's immediately accessible. And so that time to market of locking down your environment, making sure that you can trust the data that goes in and how it's getting out, is just a critical component to how IT can be powered moving forward and really drive value in a much shorter time frame with a much more higher confidence of security. So the Metallic offering together on this bedrock of Azure, that's why it's so valuable to our customers. And again, David, like you said, that's why so many customers are trying it. It's a pretty low barrier to entry. Let's try it and see if it works. And wow, all of a sudden I feel very much more comfortable and confident in how we're managing infrastructure in the cloud.
Yeah, and one thing that you mentioned a couple of times is confidence, right? It's confidence, it's trust in technology, it's trust in the companies, and that's what our partnership has been built on from the beginning, right? It is trust. We've had a strategic partnership for more than 20 years. A couple of years ago with Metallic, we extended it even further to really drive joint innovation for our customers. And we're really committed to doing this together, right? I think the commitment that we've shown together in bringing these innovative solutions to market is kind of remarkable. I've been lucky to be part of it for so long. But being built on Azure, on that bedrock that you mentioned, has been key to us, right? And accelerating customers' journeys to Azure and to the cloud in general, to SaaS services is really important. And really, we rely on each other's technology. There's no better way of kind of accelerating a partnership than to rely on each other's tech. What have you seen in our relationship over that time?
Again, we've talked about this. Commvault's been built on Microsoft technology stack for a long time. Helped us really deliver the on-prem experience of our products when we started launching more productivity services and database engines. And now as we move into this hybrid world with virtual machines and IaaS, you've been there along that journey for us. And now as we do pure on platform as a service and applications and data as a service, you guys are right there with us every step of the way. So two things. Number one, the tight integration of our engineering teams on how we're releasing stuff based on feedback that Commvault gives us, based on scenarios that your customers are facing, is such an important input mechanism for our organization, right? We really need to know the end mile of what customers are looking at, what those threat vectors are, and then how do we configure the service the right way for Commvault to really build that last mile integration for your customer benefit. So you guys have always been a very staunch advocate, or as I call it, an agent of the customer, a voice of the voiceless, to make sure that we understand what's going into customer demands and data access. And that's been very helpful for us, because then we can engineer a platform, a service that then you can build on top of. That's the first thing. The second thing is we actually are a huge consumer of Commvault. And I think sometimes we sort of don't talk about that enough. Like if you're a platform company and you make software, you sort of think to yourself, well, like Microsoft, you probably have some data backup. You probably have some data management as a service. We do. It's called Commvault. We have an entire platform of Xbox Live users that we back up and store all that data in Commvault's Metallic application. We've got our entire Office product group that we leverage and store data within. Our entire Azure data protection scheme is built around Commvault and Metallic. So, don't take it from me, as a builder, take it from me as an end consumer of the Commvault technology stack. And again, I think that just speaks to the trusted relationship that we have with one another and the joint commitment we have to ensure that we do instill this confidence with our mutual customers.
Yeah, thank you. And again, trust is so important, right? And the validation that we've been able to get together in the industry is been amazing. I think being built on Commvault technology has really gotten us and as well as Azure and Microsoft technology has really enabled us to really be the leaders in this industry. We've been a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for 11 years now, with the highest scores in all three of their critical capabilities areas. We've gotten recognition from GigaOM and many others, and being able to support all these platforms with the power and flexibility of Azure is really critical to our customers as they are, all in different phases of their journeys to the cloud, and they can rest easy that transition can be eased with our technologies combined in Metallic, right? And so there are really three critical use cases that we typically see with customers moving to the cloud, and really those use cases are what modern BCDR has to address, right? There is on-premises data for customers who are working in a hybrid environment, both things that they intend to leave on premises, as well as workloads that they intend to move to the cloud, to Azure, but they're in transition. This is pretty much where almost every customer is, right? There are people all along in different phases of the cloud journey, but that's the most common situation that we see, at least. And then the second one is, once you make that move to Azure, how do you continue to protect that critical data without having to do a significant kind of disruption of your operations and procedures? And then for SaaS applications, how do you participate and fulfill your responsibilities in that shared responsibility model when leveraging a SaaS application and continuing to have responsibility for your data, right? Those are the real main use cases that we address with Metallic, and that basis of Azure allowing us to manage all of these scenarios through a single pane of glass with one platform just has huge benefits for our joint customers.
Yeah, and I mean, again, my perspective is really skewed, and obviously I'm biased. I think the innovations we have in cloud compute, scale, and security and technology is exceptional. Yet there's still a very small portion of workloads that are actually powered by the cloud. We still have a lot of on-premise infrastructure. And by the way, Microsoft makes a pretty good penny on the on-premises investments that companies are making. And I understand, hey, I want it, I need it, it's where I gotta be. And I understand this trust factor that IT directors and CISOs, feel if they have the box in front of them, that they can make sure that they can manage everything that goes in and goes out. What we've seen over the past couple of years, COVID was an absolute terrible global pandemic, but it also accelerated the need to have access to information and distribution and supply chain and product development wherever you are. I mean, I'm working right now out of a WeWork with this weird piece of art behind me, and I have my entire enterprise experience right here on my laptop because everything I do is based on a SaaS operating model. And so we know customers are going to be still on premises for some workloads. They haven't figured that out yet, that I can do it better, bigger, faster, more efficiently if I leverage a cloud-based operating model. So we know there's going to be some workloads there. We also know that customers are starting to get savvy and they're starting to figure out, hey, there's got to be a better way to, there's got to be a better mousetrap out there. And let me see if I can leverage certain workloads in the cloud. And I think that's what makes the Metallic offering so very, very specific. So the fact that I think the number one use case for any IT director out there to figure out, above all else, is going to be business continuity and disaster recovery. Like that's the number one thing you got to figure out. And so to be able to do that with ease of implementation, plus maintain that confidence and security on the SaaS offer, is just like the perfect stick your toe on the diving board and see. You'll see the cloud's not that bad. The cloud can help you in the grand scheme of things. And so I think that's what really has driven the popularity and obviously the extension of Metallic as a product. Is I think you've laid out the three primary use cases, but I also think that we're breaking through to a lot of CIOs or CISOs or IT directors, particularly in the SMB and mid-market area, that are sort of looking around and saying like, hey, wait a sec, what is my business continuity plan? Where is my data being stored? How do I have security around that information? And the server under the desk is no longer scalable, big enough, accessible, updated, to actually be able to store and manage all that data. And so a true SaaS offering that can scale up and scale down, take advantage of cloud technologies while also giving CISOs and CTOs the right set of confidence. I think that's the spot that really Metallic and Microsoft are fulfilling for.
Yeah, it's a great point, right? That, look, if we were to dive into that first use case in a little bit more detail, I think you bring up an excellent point that it should be one of the most important things that anyone considers, right? Business continuity and how they protect their data when it's in the cloud. And unfortunately, we find that sometimes it's the last thing they think about until the project gets so far along. They're like, wait, we have this thing we haven't considered yet. And so I think the capabilities that we bring to the table, there are really two areas, right, that are super critical. One is broad platform support to be able to protect all of those workloads, because my goodness, the mix of workloads and environments that we see adopted by particularly enterprise customers, right, is extremely varied. And it's not just different applications, but versions of applications, right? Many times there are older versions of apps that they just can't move off of. And that support is so important to our customers. And that's one of the things that we pride ourselves on in Metallic, is that broad support, right? And then the second thing is performance for on-premises environments. And I think that's where the combination of the unique architecture of Metallic, where we can have a backup copy on premises for fast recovery of local data, as well as leverage the networking performance and the storage performance of Azure to have that cloud-based copy, and then be able to do that for fast recovery as well as long-term retention and ransomware resilience, right? And then the ability to be able to recover back into Azure, for instance, for migration as well as disaster recovery or staging or testing. Those are all amazing capabilities that we can bring to market with that combination.
Yeah, enterprise IT environments fascinate me. Like, I've been at the company now for 18 years. I got to work on one of the very first versions of SQL Server. you should see the penetration of that early product of SQL Server and what's still actually active out there, right? Microsoft doesn't even support the old Yukon model, the SQL Server 2008 operating system. Like, we don't really support it, but it's still functional. It still works. It still serves as a relational database engine. And yet people still have very much so hard-coded applications and experiences on this older infrastructure. And we get that. It takes a lot of work sometimes to migrate app environments, data environments. As people start figuring out, well, hey, I'm missing out on some functionality of some core applications and some core database technologies like Windows Server, SQL Server, our Office Productivity Suite, Biz Apps, Dynamics, supply chain management. As people start thinking about, hey, there's some core functionality here that can make my job easier and make our people more effective, make our customer interactions a lot more efficient. What they're starting to realize is, okay, now what do I do with this? Right? How do I migrate all that information? How do I make sure that I take the application scripts that exist and the data that's in this historic, this historic environment and migrate it to a more modern platform environment? And again, that's where I think Commvault has always had a niche in the industry, right? And now the ability to support both in a very seamless single pane of glass through Metallic is one of those scenarios that no other company provides. It's the guardrails against what you have in the hybrid, as well as what you need to migrate moving forward. And then being able to manage both of those environments in a very seamless, solidified single pane of glass, I think that just adds a lot of value to our clients.
No, it's fantastic perspective, and it's kind of a perfect way to start to talk about the second phase, which is, once you move your applications, your data into Azure, how do you continue to protect it, right? Whether you're doing lift and shift with IaaS or whether you're taking advantage of refactored applications, new applications for Azure PaaS services, right? And leveraging advanced storage, for instance, with Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2, or using Azure Blob Storage as primary storage. You really need to have a way to manage and protect those workloads as a whole, right? Rather than kind of come up with solutions that are a little bit more piecemeal, because really what you're looking at is your application, right? Compute and data. Those are the two parts of any app that are kind of the most critical. Using things like AKS for advanced compute scenarios with Kubernetes, right? And then, of course, providing that extra layer of security on top. Not only does Azure provide that security, but should the customer's environment itself, their security domain somehow be breached, how can we help there? And that's where I think our technologies are very complementary, right? You've got the Azure security capabilities, as well as the anomalous detection capabilities of Metallic combined together to be able to minimize the impact radius of any kind of event, and or even unauthorized internal activity, right? So I think it's really important. Like, what's your view on the breadth of coverage and that importance to customers?
Well, just think about the technical innovation journey that Microsoft has been on, right? We started with an operating system, and then we moved to a productivity suite, and then we got into the database and the desktop management technology. We continue to sort of upgrade, right? We then launched a bunch of IaaS services, and then customers start thinking about data management and what's happening in your data space. Then you've got containers for app development and data migration scenarios. Now we're moving into serverless. There's just this sort of continuity where most companies are sort of all across the board, where they're probably exploring some cloud first or platform as a service offers while they still have some on-premises environments. We just had our Build conference, and I think we announced some 317 new services in Azure or something ridiculous like that.
That's amazing.
So if you think about the innovation that's coming out of our R&D group, now how do we make sure that that seamless experience, again, is secure and has visibility, right, from a customer's perspective? And so I think that's what Metallic does, is it grabs all these disparate applications and services that Microsoft offers. Even something like Cosmos DB, brand new offering that we're now integrating and putting into the Metallic offering to really make sure that wherever a customer's data is, whatever applications are built on, you can actually integrate. The last thing I'll say is we've changed quite a bit since Mr. Nadella, my boss's boss's boss, has come on board. We adopt and accept and integrate with third-party applications and databases like we've never done before. right? Open source technology and database infrastructure was never something we partnered very well with 15 years ago. Now Oracle, IBM, Power Workloads, these are all accessible and powered by Azure, SAP on Azure. Unbelievable investment we're making in these large enterprise data sets and application services that we want to make better and more scalable with Azure. All that data coming from disparate sources, it all has to be within that same single pane of glass. And I think, again, one of those great examples of Commvault's innovation continues to be not only from Microsoft's products, right, of our historic database and our historic data structures we have in SQL and Windows Server, but it's also these third-party applications that we can bring on board and continue to manage through that single pane of glass is pretty impressive. If customers get their data to Azure, we know Commvault will take care of it, right? And that's a pretty comforting thing, obviously for Microsoft, but more importantly for our customers.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned those things like SAP and Oracle. These are major workloads that run on Azure, right? The huge drivers of Azure consumption. And those are things that we've focused on for many years and are part of the Metallic offering, right? And a great way of a great example of how we can drive data from all sorts of disparate sources to Azure and leverage it as a secure data protection location. Right?
Yes.
And then it's a great way for us to talk about, in terms of application support, not only kind of Microsoft and the lift and shift apps that we might talk about here, like Oracle and SAP, and talk about things like SaaS applications as well. Microsoft 365, you talked about COVID and the transition to the work from anywhere model, and Dynamics 365, and that adoption has been incredible, right? It's been amazing to see, and we use these services every day. We're a banner example of a company that transitioned to the work from anywhere model overnight. Was able to do so because we leveraged these technologies and we deployed them super fast. But this is where I think customers can be a little bit unaware that they still have responsibility for their data, and that that's something that we really complement Microsoft technology with, right? So we have Microsoft 365 support with all the data types, right? Not just email, SharePoint, Teams, OneDrive Business, right? And then of course Dynamics 365, which is also a business that's a product that's growing leaps and bounds. And we provide that isolation, that separation of responsibility and the security domain separation, right, between kind of the app ownership and the data itself, right? As we kind of all move into a more SaaS-driven world, like, how do you see this complementing SaaS app adoption?
Yeah, it's a really good point. Here's what I would say. One of the early contentions about moving to the cloud was, hey, Microsoft, you're looking at my data, you're looking at my applications, you're seeing the interactions, and you're seeing personally identifiable information that you can then use and store and be accountable for. The reality is that doesn't happen. I already told you I got two jobs. I don't have enough time to comb through customer data and databases and who they're interacting with or not. And I think that's one of the benefits of a SaaS-based application is we will power the workloads, but ultimately it's your data, it's your experience, it's your accountability, right? We always think about the cloud as a delivery service, right? FedEx or UPS, right? Where it's your package going from point A to point B. It's our job to get it there safely, securely, on time, with traceability. We don't open the package and look at it and then say, hey, this looks pretty good. We'll speed that up a little bit differently. All data, all workloads are the same from our perspective, and we're just a transport and security agency on top of that. And so when you think about a SaaS-based offering, that's what you're getting. You're getting the environment and the structure to capture, manage, secure that data, but it's your responsibility. It's still your accountability. It's still your data. And so at the end of the day, the package that you put in there, we don't really care what it is. It's about you and how you're securing the information that you want leveraging this platform. And there is a ton of additional use cases that can come from that, right? You can then integrate your applications and data to other SaaS offerings, to other platform services. You can also pull in data on your own. You can pull in your own analytics platform. Microsoft, I get this question all the time. Well, wait, Microsoft Azure doesn't do backup and doesn't do disaster recovery? Of course we do. What we don't do is pull in all those services to a single pane of glass that has an end-to-end continuity from hybrid to cloud-based environments with third-party applications. And that's where Commvault comes in to really help us shore up the full data estate that can be accessed through Azure.
Yeah, and you mentioned security a number of times, and we've talked about security throughout our discussion here, again, as one of the critical things. And if we look at it, basing Metallic on Azure gave us one of the most secure platforms that's available there, right? It gave us the basis on which we built all of our other security measures and guardrails and controls. We've built on top of that we've got our ISO 27001 compliance and our SOC 2 Type 2 compliance. We talked about FedRAMP on Azure Government. We have GDPR capabilities with data residency that's powered by Azure data centers around the world, right? Giving us that presence that we need to satisfy not only European residency requirements, but US and Canadian and Australian and in Asia. Like we have presence all around the world that's enabled by Azure, which has been absolutely fantastic. We have all of our layered security controls on top of it are built on zero trust that secure the service itself. Then, of course, we have the other part, which is the air gap, right? Which really gives us the ability to isolate our services and the data we've protected from any attackers that may have breached a customer's environment in the first place, right? And that security domain separation is just so critical. We even provide a Metallic Recovery Reserve, which is managed Azure storage, right, for data protection, and that provides even administrative level separation, subscription level separation of responsibility and security from customers' environments to the data protection environment. And of course, we'll talk about ThreatWise in a minute. But what are some of the newest investments or innovations in security, David, that Azure's provided that we leverage or that we can take advantage of?
Well, just think in terms of what we talked about at the very beginning, right? 200 plus physical data centers, all SOC compliance, all HIPAA compliant, FedRAMP that we talked about earlier. Government agencies need to think about capturing and transferring data between agencies and applications. Microsoft is the most robust and compliant, scalable cloud infrastructure on the planet. You can quote me on that, okay? And the fact that we continue to invest in all of that continued innovation to make sure that whatever the next compliance requirement comes in or whatever the next data access requirement comes in, we're going to make sure that we're fully prepared. I still remember when GDPR came out, and this is dating us now because it's been around for a while, but I still remember when global data protection rights just came out, and it was a story about Europe and how we have access to data and who can access sovereign data or not. Azure turned it on in one day. We were able to turn that on.
Amazing.
So, and that's just how we build our infrastructure, right? Is to have data that's separated for a customer entity in the tenant space, but have it be accessible and stored in a secure manner that's always available to be aggregated by whoever needs it to be aggregated. And so this innovation that we have on making sure that we're always aligned with whatever the next compliance motion comes, whatever the next access use case comes along is really important. Well, we know we do that out of our data centers. We know that's how we store. We know that that's how Azure is configured. But a customer can't write the configuration scripts to get access to those same compliancy requirements, right? Which is why, again, I think Metallic and Commvault have taken a bet on Microsoft being able to serve up the platform and then you providing that last mile integration and access points to a customer's data. So just think about us as providing all of those hoops. Like I think about us as being a pretty complicated car factory. And we're producing all the widgets and all the use cases and all the scenarios to build this robust, amazing car. Commvault is the driver. So you show up, you pick people up, you make sure they get from point A to point B really, really safely in this platform that we actually provide. And I think whatever the next innovation of compliance or regulatory requirements are, I feel very confident, 100% confident that Microsoft will be there and it will be enabled and accessible with our platform within a short time span. But then delivering that same set of confidence and that same structure to our customers is where Metallic really comes into play.
And really that we're talking about how we complement each other in functionality and technology, I think continues directly to ThreatWise, right? So ThreatWise being our latest innovation in security, which provides for not only early ransomware detection, but also some obfuscation and protection of your assets, right? So there is, when you're talking about security breaches, and I hate to talk about security breaches, but we kind of have to in this day and age, right? There is some magic time between the time that you have a breach in your security environment, your domain, and the time that you detect and mitigate that breach, right? And in that time period, it's very critical, because the first thing that any intruder does is they do some exploration or kind of surveying or surveillance of assets, what's out there, what's important, what databases are out there or services are out there that contain critical data. And that's where ThreatWise comes in, right? By having the capability to deploy assets that look like production assets in a very fast and easy manner, very lightweight and scalable, being able to deploy thousands of traps that should never be touched, right? They are never touched in normal operation. Should those be touched in any way, that's an immediate flag for anomalous or unusual or malicious activity, whether it's someone from externally who's breached your environment, or it's an administrator who's decided, hey, you know what? Let me kind of take a look around and see what I can find if there's something else that I might be able to poke at in order to get some data that I could use later. And it's a very innovative area of security technology. I believe that's quite complementary here, because Azure has tremendous defense capabilities, detection capabilities also, right? And having this capability on top of that is really important, I think.
Yeah. I mean, we spent a lot of time in this conversation talking about BCDR as a huge play, and it's something that everybody needs to do. The analogy I always use for this is I've got 3 young boys, and they're absolute messes, and I can teach them how to clean up, the juice or the milk that they spill over breakfast, right? And they've got that. They can go clean it up. They can recover from a bad situation. But wouldn't it make more sense just to teach them how not to spill the damn milk in the first place? You know what I mean? Like, this is a scenario of just put the glass in the safety zone and don't spill in the first place. And that's my analogy for ThreatWise, right? It's, hey, we know now how we've got continuity and disaster recovery technology in play. But hey, let's just prevent anything bad that requires, right, recovery in the first place. And by the way, ThreatWise, as an engine and a continuous innovation hub for Commvault, you guys keep building more and more vectors into that application, which is also pretty impressive. You built it, the original, I remember this, the original version was sort of built with an open architecture to make sure that, hey, as new things come up and new threat vectors come up and we develop new security protocols within our platform where customers are seeing new points of vulnerabilities, the infrastructure and the architecture there is very scalable to that. And so another advantage of SaaS as a service is not just obviously from the disaster recovery perspective, but also continuing to innovate where we're seeing threat vectors like we've never seen before. Hackers continue to get a little bit more complicated and confusing and more intelligent about how they're going in to customers' IT environments. And I think the fact that ThreatWise, again, a SaaS service, is always innovating, always updated, always taking care of what's the latest and greatest from a hacker perspective. Again, I think that should give a lot of confidence to our clients.
Yeah, and the security story is such an important part of modern BCDR that I think was less prevalent perhaps in the on-premises environment or the on-premises scenario. You're right, the ongoing rapid innovation is absolutely required, right? We have to stay ahead of kind of the bad actors, which is so challenging. But at the same time, we have to provide services which architecturally prevent that kind of action, right? And so when we talk about architectural things that we can provide, that's where something like Metallic Recovery Reserve can come into play, where we have managed Azure storage that's managed on behalf of our customers, that's not in their subscriptions. That takes away all the threat vectors from the customer side, right? There's not even an administrative way to get to that data. We provide an easy ramp onto the cloud for customers who are on premises just trying out cloud at first, or for those who have moved workloads to the cloud and want that separation of responsibility. We handle all of key management. Our customers never even get the key information. It's all handled securely and preserved. It's been something that's been extremely attractive to our customers, and it takes the best of Azure storage capabilities, really layers on, like you said, kind of that last mile of capability to make it fully complete. And that's been receiving a ton of attention for us. And really speaking of on-premises and the history, you've worked with us for so long, right? And we've been very fortunate to be able to work with you on the whole portfolio of Commvault technology, right? You've been working with our software and our appliance capabilities for a very long time, and now layering Metallic on top of that, having it all work together, and really giving our customers that option of selecting how they want to consume our technologies is super important. And we have, our intelligent data services, which I think, again, so well complements the Microsoft Intelligent Data Platform, right? How do you see that? How have you seen that working in the past, and how does that map as Microsoft moves ahead with the Intelligent Data Platform?
I mean, just how we think about it from our perspective is why we call it the Intelligent Data Platform is because it does actually fully integrate across all of those services: database, your analytics engine, your reporting and metrics, data governance, our Purview product on taxonomy management. What we're trying to do is put all of these assets and different scope of information technology out there and develop this common core set of services that then obviously will drive productivity and innovation for customers, right? We don't just produce a bunch of technology that we think looks cool. It's meant so that IT directors and CISOs are more productive with their IT environment. They can spend their money and their access points and their intelligence doing what their company should be actually driving. So from my perspective, that intelligence data platform that we've provided is pretty darn robust. And again, I'm biased, but it's pretty good. And how we think about all that governance model across all those entities is pretty amazing and scalable. Again, to a customer though, there's a lot of moving parts. There's just a lot of moving parts. And for Metallic to be able to offer a solution throughout that journey for the single pane of glass, the single set of controls, the easy to access, install, have a governance model around, it just makes it so much easier for customers to consume. We're sort of sometimes Microsoft can be referred to as the cheesecake factory of services providers. The menu is big and it's deep and it's awesome. We know you're going to walk away full, but man, sometimes there's just too many options there. And how do you configure it together to go the right way? We know we've got these robust, deep capabilities. We just need to ease access, usability, and then obviously just confidence for our customers to access it. And so I think Metallic's innovation, every step through that journey, through the back end, through the app layer, through our analytics engines, and then provide that as a service, just managed within the cloud infrastructure, I think is a great benefit.
It's amazing. And so, for anyone who wants to learn more or to try out the solutions that we have today, come to metallic.io/Microsoft. We have a ton of materials there that really lay out in more detail everything that David and I have been talking about today. You can sign up for a free trial as well. David, I'd like to thank you for your time today and your amazing insights. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to work with you and to have a discussion with you. And thank you everyone for joining us today on the webinar. Really appreciate your time.
Go protect your data. Go do it.
Thank you so much.
All right, excellent discussion. I learned a lot. Thank you so much, David. And David, of course, both from Microsoft and Metallic. What an excellent discussion. We've got experts from Metallic still standing by here to answer your questions electronically. We've got a lot of great questions coming in. They're getting to those as quickly as they can. While we take a few more questions electronically, I do want to point out this poll that's on the screen. The question says, what workloads are an immediate priority for your business continuity and disaster recovery strategy? Select all that apply. And as you can see here, there are 4 different answers: SaaS, app data, on-premises databases, cloud and multi-cloud workloads, or remote workforce and data at the edge. Maybe you have one, maybe you have multiple. I bet everyone out there at least has one. So get your response in there. We do want to get your feedback on this. This helps, Metallic prioritize their future development and, what you'd like to learn more about on upcoming events. So respond there on the poll. And I also want to call your attention once you do that to the handouts. Of course, they're still in the handouts tab. There are 2 PDFs, the Metallic Why Wait ebook and the Metallic Data Management as a Service datasheet are both available. And then don't forget about that Metallic free trial link there. That's a great way to sign up and try out Metallic for yourself. You can get started by simply putting in your work email address right there on the form, and then try out the Metallic backup as a service solution for yourself with full access for 30 days. So it's a great opportunity. I encourage you to click on that link right now and check it out. All right. If you haven't responded to the poll, now's the time to do it because we are about to wrap up the event today. Again, thank you to Metallic and thank you to Microsoft for supporting us on the event. I'll now announce the winner of our Amazon $300 gift card prize. This is going out to Susan Bly from Missouri. Congratulations. Susan Bly from Missouri will be reaching out to you to deliver that prize. I hope that everyone learned a lot on the event today. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on upcoming events here at Actual Tech Media. Have a great day, and take care. Bye-bye.